killing my friend!
Who's killing your friend?
My chimpanzee!
Not all pets are as loyal as they seem, and these shocking cases prove it beyond reasonable doubt. From exotic wild pets to everyday domesticated animals, these incidents left everyone frozen in disbelief. What could have caused these creatures to carry out gruesome and unthinkable acts, and could they happen again? Join us as we uncover the terrifying truth behind these unbelievable events where pets turned on their owners in the most horrifying way, devouring them in plain sight. Number 15. Charla Nash and the chimpanzee. First on our list is Charla Nash, whose life took a devastating turn on February 16, 2009, when she was attacked by Travis, a 200-pound pet chimpanzee owned by her friend Sandra Herold in Stamford, Connecticut. Before the attack, Charla was a friendly and hard-working woman who shared a close bond with Sandra, often helping her manage daily tasks. Travis, on the other hand, was an unusual pet. Raised by Sandra from infancy, he was considered a local celebrity, appearing in commercials and living a life akin to a human child, complete with a diet of steak and lobster. On the day of the attack, Sandra called Charla for help when Travis became agitated. Charla arrived with the intention of calming the chimp, but Travis, perhaps mistaking her for a threat, launched a brutal attack. He tore off her face and hands in an assault so vicious that Sandra had to stab Travis and call 911 in panic. First responders were shocked by the scene, and police ultimately shot and killed Travis when he charged at them. Charla's injuries were catastrophic. She lost her eyes, nose, lips, and hands. Her recovery started after she underwent a face transplant in 2011. Charla later advocated for stricter laws on exotic pet ownership, warning others of the unpredictable nature of animals like Travis. The incident also sparked legal and ethical debates. Sandra faced lawsuits, and the tragedy brought attention to the inherent dangers of keeping wild animals as pets, no matter how domesticated they appear. Well, we can say that a pet chimpanzee's attack is unpredictable, but can we say the same for someone who decides to live with an entire pack of wolves? Number 14. Sandra Piasan and wolves. In 2006, Sandra Piasan, a 50-year-old woman from Salem Township, Pennsylvania, was tragically killed by the hybrid wolves she had kept as pets for over a decade. Sandra, who had a deep fascination with wolves, raised a pack of 9 hybrid animals, part wolf and part domestic dog, within an electrified enclosure on her property. She often described her relationship with the wolves as spiritual, referring to herself as their pack leader. The fatal incident occurred while Sandra was tending to the animals. Her daughter found her body inside the pen, and an autopsy later confirmed that she had bled to death within minutes from severe injuries to her scalp and legs caused by the wolves. Investigators found no signs of underlying medical conditions that might have incapacitated her before the attack, and it was concluded that the wolves initiated the assault spontaneously. The animals, known for their unpredictable nature, had reportedly shown aggressive tendencies in the past, even attacking a friend of Sandra 2 years earlier. Animal welfare officials had previously warned Sandra about the dangers of keeping hybrid wolves, emphasizing their unpredictability and heightened threat compared to wild wolves, which usually fear humans. After the tragedy, the 8 surviving wolves in the pen were euthanized to allow authorities to retrieve her body safely. And now we've seen the risks of living among wolves, but what drives someone to keep a creature as dangerous as a hippo? Well, let's find out. Number 13. Marius Ells and his hippo. Marius Ells was not just a farmer. He was a man who sought to forge an extraordinary bond with one of nature's most fearsome creatures. In 2011, the South African farmer tragically lost his life to Humphrey, a 1,200-kilogram hippo he had raised as his own. Humphrey wasn't an ordinary pet. He had been rescued by Marius as a calf after a devastating flood, and over the years, their relationship became the talk of the local community. Marius adored Humphrey, often calling him like a son, and proudly showing off their connection through photos and videos where he would ride on the hippo's broad back. To Marius, this wasn't a wild animal, it was family. But the neighbors and wildlife experts weren't convinced. They warned him repeatedly about the dangers of keeping such a powerful creature, known to be one of Africa's most aggressive animals. Humphrey had shown flashes of his dangerous nature before, chasing golfers, menacing canoeists, and even being blamed for the death of livestock. But Marius brushed off these warnings, confident in the bond he believed they shared. On a fateful November evening, Humphrey's wild instincts resurfaced in a horrific turn of events. The hippo attacked Marius, biting and gouging him before submerging him in the river near his farm. Paramedics arrived too late to save him, and the sight of a man so devoted to his pet, meeting such a brutal end, left the world stunned. How far can the bond between humans and dangerous animals really go before the line between friendship and tragedy blurs? For the next person on our list, it was a tragic end when his pet animal turned on its caretaker, resulting in something unbelievable. Number 12. Sam Mazola and his bear. The tragic story of Brent Candra, a caretaker at Sam Mazola's exotic animal sanctuary in Columbia Station, Ohio, is another proof of the dangers of keeping wild animals as pets. On August 19, 2010, 24-year-old Candra was fatally mauled by a bear named Bart during a routine feeding. The bear had been let out of its cage, which was common practice, as both Candra and Mazola believed the animal to be familiar with them. However, the bear suddenly became aggressive, causing severe injuries that resulted in Candra's death the next day at a Cleveland hospital. Mazola, a controversial figure known for hosting bear wrestling events, had faced legal and ethical scrutiny for his treatment of exotic animals. Although his license to exhibit animals had been revoked, he continued to keep a menagerie of wild animals, including bears, tigers, and wolves, on his property. Following the incident, Bart the bear was euthanized at the request of Candra's family. Brent's father had repeatedly urged him to leave the job, citing concerns about the risks involved. Despite this, Brent's lifelong passion for animals and his work at the sanctuary kept him there. And yet, if you thought this bear attack was harrowing, wait until you hear about a farmer who dared to tame a beast far larger than himself. Number 11. Terry Vance Garner and his pigs. Terry Vance Garner, a 69-year-old farmer from Coos County, Oregon, tragically lost his life while tending to his animals on his coastal farm. Garner, who was known for his deep bond with his animals, especially his large pigs, never returned after going to feed them one fateful Wednesday. When his family went looking for him, they discovered dentures and pieces of his body near the pig enclosure. However, the rest of his remains had been consumed by the pigs. Authorities suggested that the pigs, each weighing around 700 pounds, may have knocked Garner over before killing and eating him. However, they also considered the possibility that a medical emergency, like a heart attack, may have caused his collapse, leading to his tragic fate. Despite a pathologist's inability to determine the exact cause of death, Garner's remains were sent for further analysis at the University of Oregon. Terry Garner had a reputation as a kind and caring man. His older brother Michael recalled him as a good-hearted guy who devoted much of his life to caring for his animals, particularly the adult sows, and a boar named Teddy. Garner had even sold piglets to local children. His brother also shared that the farm was a refuge for Garner, a Vietnam War veteran struggling with PTSD. It was here that he found comfort, though it was also a place where he once had a conflict with one of the hogs after it bit him. Despite this, Garner had decided against killing the animal, a decision that reflected his deep affection for his animals. If you think Garner's story is harrowing, wait until you hear about Kellyanne Walls, whose pet black bear delivered a fatal attack. Number 10. Kellyanne Walls and Black Bear. In 2009, Kellyanne Walls' life ended in a tragic and horrifying attack by her pet black bear, Teddy, in Pennsylvania. Teddy had been a part of the Walls family since he was a cub, raised by Kelly's husband, a man with a passion for exotic animals. Over the years, the couple developed a bond with the bear, which they often treated as a member of the family. But as many warned, there's a fine line between affection and the inherent danger of keeping a wild animal, even one raised in captivity. On that fateful day, Kelly was cleaning Teddy's cage when the unthinkable happened. Teddy, who had always been docile and seemingly affectionate, suddenly turned aggressive. Reports suggest that Kelly was alone at the time, and no one saw exactly what triggered the attack. In an instant, Teddy overpowered her, mauling her fatally. Despite the efforts of emergency responders, it was clear that Kelly had no chance against the 400-pound bear. While Kelly's husband had raised Teddy since he was a cub, the bear was still wild at heart. Black bears, even when raised in captivity, retain unpredictable instincts that can be triggered without warning. This tragedy not only shocked the Walls family, but also reignited debates about the safety of keeping wild animals as pets. In the aftermath, many questioned how such an attack could occur despite years of familiarity and affection. Now let's move on to an unbelievable story, an attack from the least expected animal. Number 9. Pam Weaver and her camel. In 2007, Pam Weaver, an Australian woman from New South Wales, tragically lost her life in a bizarre and horrific incident involving a camel that had been gifted to her for her birthday. The camel, which had been a present from her family, was intended to bring joy and excitement to her life, but it ended up being the cause of her untimely death. Pam, who was described as a woman with a deep love for animals, was out in the yard of her home when the camel, an animal she had become familiar with, suddenly turned aggressive. Reports indicate that the camel knocked Pam over, causing her to fall to the ground. Unfortunately, she was then crushed under its weight. Though she was rushed to the hospital, Pam succumbed to her injuries shortly afterward. The camel had been a part of her life for some time, but like many large domesticated animals, camels retain their wild instincts, and despite being familiar, they can still be unpredictable and dangerous. It's believed that the camel's behavior was triggered by some form of stress or confusion, but the exact cause remains unclear. Pam's tragic death was a shock to her family, friends, and the community, sparking debate over the safety of owning exotic or large animals. While Pam's love for animals was unquestionable, this incident serves as a reminder that even well-meaning relationships with wild creatures can turn deadly. Her death highlighted the inherent dangers of attempting to domesticate animals that are not meant to be kept as pets, no matter how well they may appear to fit into a home. Now that we've seen the deadly consequences of land-based animals, let's shift our focus to something a bit more unexpected: a deadly encounter with one of the world's most dangerous birds, the cassowary. Number 8. Martin Hajos and his cassowary. In 2019, a tragic event occurred in Florida when 75-year-old Marvin Hajos was killed by his pet cassowary, a large flightless bird native to Australia and New Guinea. Hajos, who had been breeding the birds on his private property, was attacked by one of the birds after he reportedly fell near it. Though the cassowary's attack was not considered intentional, it led to fatal injuries, and Hajos was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Authorities described the incident as a tragic accident, and an investigation was launched to determine the circumstances leading up to the attack. Cassowaries are often referred to as the world's most dangerous bird, and for good reason. Standing up to 6 feet tall and weighing as much as 130 pounds, these birds have incredibly strong legs and large, razor-sharp claws capable of inflicting deadly wounds. Their claws, which can be up to 5 inches long, have the ability to deliver swift, forceful kicks. While attacks on humans are rare, when they do occur, they are often fatal. Hajos's death brings attention to the inherent risks involved in owning such powerful exotic animals. These birds are highly sought after by exotic animal collectors in the United States, and Hajos was known to be breeding them. After the incident, the cassowary was secured on private property, but there were no immediate plans for what would happen to it. Shifting away from this bird attack, what happens when an animal's hunger goes unmet? Can it turn on its owner? Well, let's find out. Number 7. Andre Lamoga and his dogs. In a chilling and tragic incident that unfolded in Indonesia, Andre Lamoga, a man from Sulawesi, left 7 of his pet dogs without food and water for 2 weeks while he went on holiday. Upon returning, Lamoga was met with a horrific scene. The starving dogs, desperate for food, attacked and killed him. They then consumed his body, leaving only the skull behind. His death might have remained undiscovered if not for a curious neighborhood guard who noticed the absence of the man and the strange sight of his abandoned luggage outside the house. The guard was prompted by a foul smell emanating from Lamoga's home, which led him to call the police. Upon entering, authorities discovered the man's skull in the kitchen, while his body was found near the house's entrance. In addition to Lamoga, the dogs had also killed and eaten 2 other dogs during the 2-week period he was away, contributing to the chilling nature of the attack. The irony of this tragic story lies in Lamoga's origins. He hailed from Sulawesi, where the local diet is famously known to include dog meat. Yet despite his cultural background, it was the very animals he had kept as pets that ended his life. The horrific attack sheds light on the dangers of neglecting animals, especially those with the capacity to turn on their owners in desperate circumstances. Now, let's shift focus to an incredibly heartbreaking tragedy involving a pet animal. This time, an innocent child falling victim to a dangerous situation. What happens when a seemingly harmless pet turns deadly? Number 6. Pet snake kills child. In 2009, a devastating tragedy unfolded in Florida when 2-year-old Cheyenne Hare was killed by her family's pet Burmese python, Gypsy. The 8-foot-6-inch snake escaped its poorly secured enclosure, which was covered only with a quilt instead of a proper lid. Gypsy slithered into Cheyenne's crib during the night and attacked her as she slept. Burmese pythons, native to Southeast Asia, kill their prey by constricting, using their powerful muscles to suffocate victims before consumption. Cheyenne stood no chance against the snake's natural hunting instincts. By the time authorities arrived, Cheyenne's lifeless body bore visible bite marks, and her tragic death shocked the local community and beyond. The snake's owners, Jaren Hare and her boyfriend Charles Darnell, had kept Gypsy as a family pet for years, despite warnings about its danger. The couple faced scrutiny not only for their choice to keep such a powerful reptile, but also for failing to secure it adequately. They admitted to being aware of Gypsy's attempts to escape in the past, but had not taken sufficient action to improve the enclosure. This horrifying incident sparked discussions about the dangers of keeping exotic animals as pets, particularly in homes with children. Experts have long warned against owning species like Burmese pythons, as their instincts cannot be tamed and the risks often outweigh the fascination of ownership. Florida officials used the tragedy as a rallying cry to push for stricter regulations on exotic pet ownership, including mandates for escape-proof enclosures. Moving on from a child to a senior citizen, let's now explore the brutal effects of pet animals and how, in some tragic cases, even the elderly can fall victim to their once beloved companions. Number 5. Nga Muhammad and his pet monkey. In Malaysia, monkeys are often trained to retrieve coconuts, as their remarkable tree-climbing abilities make them more efficient than human workers. This practice, common in some regions, inspired 72-year-old Nga Muhammad to train his pet monkey for the same task. The idea seemed harmless, but unfortunately, things took a deadly turn. Nga's pet monkey, which he had raised for some time, was not quite prepared for the task at hand. Instead of fetching coconuts, the monkey attacked Nga, biting him severely, including a critical bite to his wrist. This particular bite tore through a major artery, causing Nga to bleed to death. His son, Mod Zakaria Nga, rushed to the scene after hearing a commotion. Tragically, when he approached his father's unconscious body, the monkey turned on him as well, biting him on the neck. Zakaria's screams alerted nearby neighbors, who rushed to help. The monkey, frightened by the crowd, fled into the jungle, leaving behind a horrific scene. Authorities, including the Malaysian Department of Wildlife and National Parks, quickly responded. They tracked down the monkey and tranquilized it. Given its aggressive behavior, it was likely destroyed following the attack, though this was not publicly confirmed. Now, moving on from Zakaria's tragic story, let's focus on Emmanuel, whose collection of reptiles took a dark turn, leading us to the story of Mark Vogel and his aggressive pet. Number 4. Mark Vogel and his exotic pets. Mark Vogel, a 30-year-old from Dortmund, Germany, tragically met his end in a bizarre and grisly accident involving his collection of exotic pets. Known for keeping over 200 spiders, several reptiles, and other unusual creatures in his apartment, Vogel's home resembled a real-life jungle. His most dangerous companions included venomous species like black widow spiders, which he often handled with ease. However, in early 2004, one of his beloved pets, a black widow, bit him, leading to his untimely death. It's believed the spider's venom, coupled with complications from other creatures in the apartment, caused his demise. Upon discovery, the scene was chilling. Police found Vogel's body surrounded by his exotic pets, with the lizards and tarantulas feasting on his remains. The apartment, dimly lit with a green hue, had a macabre atmosphere, and spiders were reportedly found crawling out of his nose and mouth. Additionally, thousands of termites and other creatures contributed to the grim scene. And yet, if you think this story is unsettling, wait until you hear about another extraordinary pet owner tragedy. Number 3. Paul McDonald and his pet deer. Paul McDonald, a farmer from Australia, tragically lost his life in 2019 due to an unexpected attack by a hybrid of a red deer and an elk, known as a wapiti. The animal had been raised on the farm for years and was typically docile, but during the mating season, a shift in its behavior led to the fatal incident. During this time, known as rutting, male deer experience a surge in testosterone, which often results in aggression and territorial behavior. On the morning of the attack, Paul went to feed the hybrid, unaware of the dangerous shift in the animal's behavior due to the rut. His wife and son, hearing a commotion, rushed to his aid, but the animal became increasingly violent. In the chaos, Paul's wife was injured while trying to intervene, and their son ran to get help. Tragically, Paul was fatally injured in the attack, and despite the quick arrival of paramedics and police, he could not be saved. The hybrid was shot to prevent further harm, and Paul's wife was rushed to the hospital, where she underwent several surgeries and eventually recovered from her injuries. Research on wild deer populations shows that the increase in testosterone during rutting can make deer more aggressive. Castration and isolation from other deer have been shown to help prevent these violent outbursts. However, despite the animal's relative isolation from other deer, the combination of its hormones and breeding season caused it to become unusually violent, leading to the tragic incident. Well, moving on, what happens when an animal that's literally meant to monitor you ends up being the one to take your life? Let's talk about Ronald Huff and his deadly encounter with his pet monitor lizard. Number 2. Ronald Huff and his monitor lizards. In 2002, in Delaware, a tragic incident unfolded when Ronald Huff, a man known for his passion for reptiles, was killed by his pet monitor lizards. Huff, a 42-year-old who had been keeping exotic animals for years, including a variety of monitor lizards, was found dead in his home. The cause of death was determined to be severe injuries inflicted by his own pets, specifically the large reptiles he had raised in his home. Huff had a deep connection with the animals, having kept them for years as part of his collection. Monitor lizards, known for their size and strength, are native to Asia and Africa and can grow to lengths of up to 10 feet. Although not typically aggressive towards humans, these reptiles are still wild animals, and their natural instincts can become unpredictable, especially if they feel threatened or cornered. On the day of the attack, Huff was found by his wife in a state of severe injury. Authorities speculated that he might have been attacked by the lizards after an altercation or a feeding session gone wrong. In these types of incidents, it's often the combination of a large, powerful animal in a confined space and a lapse in judgment or safety precautions that leads to disaster. While Huff's love for reptiles was clear, it also became apparent that there are significant risks when keeping wild animals in domestic settings without the proper expertise and precautions. Following his death, Delaware, along with other states, reviewed its regulations on owning exotic pets, especially dangerous ones like monitor lizards. And now, as we reach the final story on our list, let's dive into a shocking story where a woman's bond with a pet crocodile turned deadly. Number 1. Desi Tuwo and a crocodile. In January 2019, Desi Tuwo, head of a pearl farm laboratory in North Sulawesi, Indonesia, met a tragic end involving a crocodile named Mary. This 4.4-meter-long crocodile was illegally kept in an outdoor enclosure on the laboratory's property, though its presence there was puzzling. Desi was reportedly feeding Mary when she either accidentally fell into the enclosure or was pulled in by the powerful reptile, which may have leaped using its strong tail, a behavior crocodiles are known for. By the time her colleagues discovered the scene, Mary had partially consumed Desi, devouring one of her hands and most of her abdomen. The horrifying incident shocked local authorities and raised questions about the safety and legality of housing such a dangerous animal on the premises. Removing Mary required a massive coordinated effort. Police, army personnel, and wildlife officials collaborated in a 3-hour operation to tranquilize and secure the crocodile. Mary was eventually transported to a wildlife rescue center, strapped to a flatbed truck, and that's all for today. Thanks for watching.